they're all having all of these health issues. And it's not funny, but I know that your son has eczema, and that was kind of what catapulted you down this path, which I want you to touch a little bit on. But my brother also has eczema.
Yeah.
So my first initial question to you is, what stemmed the passion for more functional medicine versus more old school Western medicine?
So basically, because it didn't work.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I was a conventional practice nurse for 8 years before I had ever heard of functional medicine. And when I went down that rabbit hole, and I'm still going down it, I was upset, because I'm like, why don't we learn about this in nursing school? And I think what kind of catapulted me even farther and farther is that it works.
Yeah.
Like, if you just give the body what it needs, it will heal itself. And what I learned in nursing school and through drug therapy is that my patients used to tell me, like, I'm fine. I'm not getting worse, so it's a good day. My doctor told me that this is a progressive chronic disease. Like, I'm never going to get better. This is a thing that I deal with my whole life, and I'm just glad to still be here. And that just isn't good enough for me, And I don't think I ever questioned it because it wasn't happening to me, and as shitty as that sounds, like, it really takes, when it happens to yourself or your child, for you to really question and push against the grain. Because in nursing school, like, they just, it's ingrained in you.
Yeah.
Like, I remember learning that vaccines, like, if you don't vaccinate, you're endangering everyone else. And they used to say, like, if someone's,
COVID.
Yeah, and if someone's saying that they don't want to vaccinate, that it's our job as a practitioner in healthcare to change their mind. Like, that was what they taught me in nursing school. And I went to a really, like, well-respected, expensive nursing school. So anyways, all that to say, like, I had to really unlearn a lot of things. And I didn't feel the need to do that until my own child was suffering. And then all the options, like, I mean, he was 3 months old and we're giving him oral steroids and it wasn't working. So, like, I would never do that again, knowing what I know now. But then someone told me to remove dairy from my diet, and that worked. Like, how does that even connect? I had no idea. Obviously, I was nursing, so whatever I ate, was getting passed to him. And at the end of the day, it all came down to deficiencies. Like, he wasn't getting enough omega-3 in his diet and my diet. And then also he was at 10 days old, he got RSV, which is a virus, really scary, you know. And they gave me an antibiotic for it. And, I know better, like, now especially.
Yeah.
But even then, like, I'm like, well, it's an antibiotic. This is a virus. I'm still going to give it to him because they gave it to me. And obviously they gave it to me for a reason.
Yeah.
I don't want to not do what they tell me to do when my baby can't breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think what happened was that antibiotic at 10 days old completely wiped out his healthy, like, whatever he did have in his gut. And then these inflammatory foods just wreaked havoc. And our skin is it's anything that's going on your skin is a reflection of what's happening on the inside of your body. Mm-hmm. So, it was a combination of leaky gut, food sensitivities, and deficiencies. And as soon as we cleared that up, which with kids, it didn't take very much time.
Yeah.
He healed. And now you can't even tell that he had those problems. And it's not always that simple, but it really can be.
There's a lot of ways we can, and it's funny because my sister was, I think I might be saying this wrong, I think she pooped in my mom's stomach, and she had so many issues when she was on a bunch of antibiotics, and she got diagnosed with Crohn's disease later. And they said that they think a potential was because you were on so many heavy doses of antibiotics and messed up your gut, and that's why she has Crohn's disease. And even watching her go through everything that she's had to gone through, like, that's, I mean, kind of what you said, like, whether it happens to you or whether it happens to someone that's close to you, like, you just watch, and there's something in me that I'm like, I just know there's another way. Why do you feel that they don't teach you this stuff in nursing school? Like, why is it so kind of like kept under wrap when it's the truth in a sense, and it's what's actually going to heal you from the root cause.
Yeah. Well, I mean, without getting political,
Yeah.
it's really about, well, what's the goal of these programs?
Yeah, to make money.
Yeah. And, unfortunately, there are people out there that are in control of what we learn and what
Mhm.
programs are geared towards. And people are putting money into this, and it's all about the money. It's
Yeah.
not really about us
Yeah.
and giving us a chance to do this as, our bodies were designed to do this. It's how can we create a product to make money off of
Mhm.
this sick nation, and how do we keep them sick? Unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
but that really is what's going on.
it's true with Tessa in any situation. It's like you don't see going to the doctor and they're like, maybe you need more of this to eat this, or focus on your diet, or focus on this. It's like, oh, you're depressed. Here's a medicine. Oh, you have this. Here's a medicine. It was never, and I experienced that even like giving birth control or like certain things. They're just always pushing something at you, but they're never asking you why. The most important question, like why? We're trying to understand like what truly was going on. And it's so sad for someone out there that's listening that maybe doesn't know or is new. What's the true difference, in your opinion, from functional medicine versus more what we see like new age Western medicine?
Yeah. So, being in functional medicine is kind of like doing detective work. And so I think that time is one of the things that's against, conventional doctors, is like they literally only have 5 to 10 minutes to speak with a patient. There's no way you're going to figure out why something
Yeah.
is going on in 5 to 10 minutes. It takes hours, it takes months, it takes years to figure out why.
Yeah.
So time is a problem
Mm-hmm.
for sure. And the other thing is like what I notice with my clients now versus the dynamic and that I was in before is the we really want to teach you and empower you to figure it out yourself, versus going into a doctor and telling me what's wrong. Like, I just want you to tell me what's wrong and then you to fix it, and then me do that and I be better.
Yeah.
Where in this world, it's more of a let's sit down together and figure this out together. And then let's come up with a plan that makes sense for you.
Yeah.
And one that you're actually going to be able to do, because it is harder. It's easier to take the pill.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say that it's a shift. It's a shift in thinking,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a lot more work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of people that are working in that profession, and maybe this is just because I'm not in that world, that make this switch from old school to maybe new school is what we'll call it for the sake of this. Outside of your son, like what really compelled you to go down this track and then eventually open up your own ozone therapy? And we'll get there, but what was that initial event, if you will, that made you switch completely over?
Well, I was working in a neurology practice prior to switching to functional medicine. I was in this big neurology practice in Dallas, like 14 neurologists, and I helped them open an infusion suite. I've been in IV therapy pretty much my whole nursing career. I've done all kinds of infusions. And so they used to make fun of me there, because I was working there when I was figuring all this out. And
Yeah.
I changed my diet, and I would do like intermittent fasting. I would do like juices and all kinds of stuff. They used to call me kale girl. Like anytime there would be kale for lunch, every day, drug reps would come out and
Yeah.
deliver lunch every single day. And so if there was kale or like salad, they'd be like, "Oh my God, Darrah, there's kale today. Come see," And I'm like, "Nope, still not coming to lunch."
Yeah.
And so I
Wow.
think it was a combination of not feeling like I was being supported in the role that I was at. Like,
Mhm.
I wanted to talk to my patients about their diet. I was working with a lot of MS patients at that time, and I had learned about Terry Walls, who is a big in this kind of functional medicine world. She wrote a book, The Walls Protocol. It's all about how to change your diet to reverse chronic neurological conditions like MS. And it's, a lot of vegetables basically. And then there's also the Bredesen protocol, which is how to reverse cognitive decline and end Alzheimer's. And so I would talk about this with my patients, and I would mention it to my doctors, and like they just didn't care. They just were like, you can't reverse anything in the brain. Like the brain isn't plastic. The brain is forever. Like if once it happens, that's it. Like there's no coming back from that. And it was so against the grain, and I just felt like such an outcast, and I was getting so frustrated with that. And like patients, it was like 50-50. Like some patients were fine with not getting better, and they just kind of were like, whatever, I'm here to do this, go home, and one day I'm gonna die. Like, and they were fine with that. 50% of the patients wanted to know what they could do at home.
Yeah.
And so I would talk about diet, and it just felt really unsupported, and it was really like honestly evil. Like I remember I invited, there was a talk on Bredesen at a local functional medicine place, which I eventually ended up working at. And I invited a doctor to come with me, like a new neurologist. I'm like, hey, did you know you can reverse Alzheimer's? She's like, what? I'm like, yeah, with food. You should come to this training with me. I think it's going to be really cool. And I wanted to bridge the things because I don't think that it's completely bad, conventional. Like there's a place for that.
Exactly. I would agree.
And at the time, like I wanted to bridge the two. Like, how can we work together? And she completely ghosted me, and like just felt like she would be outcasted by her peers if she came to this like rogue doctor thing, And so at that point, I was like, no, I really feel like these are my people, and I need to surround myself with people. When you want to make a drastic change in your life, the best way to do that is to go to the places where those people hang out, and then just sit there and learn, and so that's what I did. I was like, I ended up, this functional medicine office was right across the street from my neurology office. And so one day on lunch, I just walked over there and was like, hey, I don't have any experience in functional medicine at all, except my own.
Yeah.
I can do IV therapy, but like, I see you have an IV room. And they're like, oh my gosh, actually, we just hired a doctor that brought his ozone generator to our practice. We need an IV nurse. And it was like a God thing. Like it was just timing, lined up perfectly.
Alignment, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so that's how that happened. And it just felt so right. Like everything had led me to that. Because I've had a very unconventional nursing career, I will say.
What do you mean by that?
So most nurses will go and immediately work in a hospital when they graduate and stay there for decades, and like hospitals are really good at making you feel like you need to do more. Like you need to get certified. You need to be on this board. You need to do all these things in order to be like better and work your way up. You start off as like a baby nurse, and then, you're not really like, and this isn't always true, but like they don't even respect you till you're 10 years in. It's like
it's very corporate, yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's very political.
Yeah.
And I never lasted in the same job as a nurse for more than 2 years. Every 2 years, I switched because there was always something there, like either ethically or like something with management or something. Like one time I was sent home for crying because a child died. Like,
yeah. And they were like, you got to go?
You got to go home. You can't have that here. And that's, extreme.
Yeah.
But also, like, I'm a courier. I'm a very sensitive, empathic person. So, like.
But I also feel that's good to be.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'm losing all my marbles now, but I'm like, I feel like that's a very normal reaction. I see like a kid crying and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm about to cry because you're crying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now I have people come into my office. There's been so many tears in my office. Like, crying is so therapeutic.
Yeah.
You shouldn't shut that down. But anyways, so yeah, I had a new job like every 2 years. And it was always for something like real like unethical. Like, I can't stand this anymore,
Yeah.
I did a lot of home health, home infusion, case management. I did some contracting nursing in the hospital. I started off like I worked as a patient care technician and then transferred into like the RN role. And that was really hard for me, that transition between patient care tech and registered nurse. That very first job out of nursing school was like, nah, this isn't for me. So I kind of went straight into like home health.
Mm-hmm.
And then, talk about ethical dilemmas. Like home health is, if you've ever done home health, like, you know, but what I'm talking about, but it's just, there was like really shady things that happen and it's all money. It's all very greed, driven. Like, how do we keep this patient a patient of ours so that we can keep billing?
Yeah.
And
That's
then,
so sad.
yeah. And even with like really intense drug therapies, like I did a lot of IV antibiotics at home for patients. Yeah, you can do IV like antibiotics at home. And like sometimes patients would be on them for like 9 weeks, 12 weeks. And, you know, obviously like the pharmacies wanted to keep those patients around because those are good money making patients. And so
this is a scandal that I cannot get on. This is just
nuts, girl. Nuts.
This is why I don't think, I mean, I get super passionate about it. And like, I mean, my parents, I definitely think I've lost all my marbles, but there's just, I mean, my mom had a situation recently where she went into the hospital, all of these different issues. They kept her there for a week to tell her that they didn't know what was wrong. And it was just another thing that I'm like, how do you not know what, I mean, I hate like just like, what you went to how many years of school? I'm not trying to be mean. And like, I know there's doctors out there listening to it. I'm not saying that you're not smart, but it's just like, how can you go to someone and then they literally just are like, oh, you're out of here. And they just don't do anything. I'm like, I mean, it's like you go in to pay for a car wash and they're like, oh, sorry, we don't have a car wash. And like, oh, no, like, bye. It's like, no, you're going to be mad if you paid for something, all this money. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And I just don't understand why it's not talked about more, but it's probably like a lot of other things. Like, they don't want everyone to know. It's probably why there's so much fast food and all of this going on. But I'm like, there's so much that people don't know. And I also think it's a lot simpler than we make it out to be. When people always come in like, how do you eat so healthy? How do you do this? I'm like, stick to what's on the earth. And you're going to be 80% ahead of the game as long as you're fueling your body with. I'm not saying that it can cure everything, but I do feel, even for me, like acne, I had terrible cramps. I was fatigued. The second I switched my diet, my entire life changed, literally. And so it's just,
it's poison.
Yeah. And you're just not taught it and you don't know. And to your point, which environment, whether you're personal or professional, I think is huge. How important do you feel, especially when you're going down a little bit of a different path it is to surround yourself with like-minded people? Because I never got kind of bullied like you did, but I definitely have had people that are like, you've lost it. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. Like, what are you saying? And it's very...
Community is everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not going to ever feel confident in what you're doing if someone doesn't like validate that for you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I think things like this, exactly what you're doing, podcasts and having these conversations publicly is so important. And it's why it's growing the way it has. Yeah. I learned everything through podcasts. Like, I'm always listening to a podcast.
Yeah.
You know, and if you don't have like-minded people around you, find them, you know, or online. So, well, in
not
this
maybe
industry,
tangibly, but I think like just overall, I think a lot of people get stuck with like, how do I find those type of people if I'm in maybe a very different space? Like you were in old school going towards something new.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it is doing a little bit of research.
Yeah.
Where do these people hang out? And then putting yourself out there. I mean, it's awkward to be like, hey, we are into the same things. Can we be friends?
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the things I love about my business is that it's a community, really. Yeah. I mean, there's IV bars that pop up. They're everywhere now.
Uh-huh.
And it's a really cool place because you're sitting there for like an hour and a half and you can't really move.
Yeah.
Where there's so much conversation that goes on. People are sharing their stories. You know, what are you here for? Or like they overhear me talking to this patient about what they're here for and what some things we can do. And they chime in. And it's such a really cool place to meet like-minded people.
Yeah.
IV bars are a great place to do that.
Yeah.
They're like people are there for vitamins.
Yeah. They're there for health reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're chilling for an hour. So, yeah, I mean, it's all about putting yourself in those situations and not being nervous about being weird.
Yeah.
Right? Just kind of removing, like, don't care about that kind of stuff. There's someone out there that agrees with you, and it's just about finding that person. And yeah, like I said, just putting yourself out there.
How did you come up with the idea for your own business? When did you make the full on jump into your own endeavor?
To be honest, it wasn't my idea. I was
Okay.
like, most practitioners were not business people, so I would have never had the courage or anything like that to do this if it wasn't for the people around me that were encouraging me to do it. And out of necessity.
Yeah.
What I do is it's called Ozone therapy. It's been really effective against COVID.
Oh.
And so there was definitely opportunity there.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, so
What is ozone therapy? Before you go into that.
okay. So ozone is oxygen.
Yeah.
It's O3 instead of O2, which just makes it a very special kind of oxygen, a very activated form of oxygen. We're back in chemistry. Every atom in a molecule wants a pair.
Uh-huh.
And so when there's 3 atoms, it wants to donate that third oxygen atom in a process called oxidation. Ozone is an oxidative therapy. And so there's a lot of healing benefits when it's applied to the body in a very, specific way. You want to be careful with it. There's definitely the correct dose and time to do it. And yeah, there's a bunch of really cool, kind of miraculous things that happen when it comes in the body. It's called the miracle molecule. Our body creates ozone naturally, but when we generate it externally and then apply it, it's anti-inflammatory, it's anti-pathogenic, it is immunomodulating, which means upregulates the immune system when needed and downregulates it when needed, like helpful for autoimmunity.
Yeah.
It helps with mitochondrial repair. So mitochondria is the powerhouse of our cells. This is how ATP or energy is produced in our body. This is a big topic in functional healing is mitochondrial repair, helps with that. And oxygen utilization. So not only supplies supplemental oxygen, but also changes the way your body utilizes oxygen. Oxygen is the most vital thing in our body that we need. It's the first thing that we require when we are alive, that first breath, and the last thing to go when you die. It's required for every single process in our body.
Yeah.
And with stress and disease and aging, our body doesn't utilize oxygen as well. It's actually like the root of the root of the root is oxygen utilization and how well your body's using oxygen, as well as mitochondria, and then inflammation, and then detox. I mean, it really covers all root cause issues, which is why it's so helpful with so many different things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically anything to do with inflammation, pathogens, mitochondria, oxygen, or your immune system, ozone will help with.
How often do your patients typically get it? And is there a certain, it sounds like it's a range, so it's not maybe like someone only with an autoimmune disorder, but give examples of like the type of patients that you see and then how often they go to see significant difference.
Yeah, so it totally varies and depends on the situation, obviously. I don't ever give any blanket recommendations. And if you're going to an ozone place and they are trying to sell you on a package of ozones, that might not be what you need.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you could definitely overdo it. It's important to work with someone who's experienced in this.
Yeah.
It's very safe. There's really not any big dangers of doing it, but you can feel like shit if you don't do it right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if you're not allowed to cuss on here.
Oh no, you're fine. You're good. Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, you can feel bad if it's too much, but so yeah, and again, any of those 5 things, if those are a thing for you, it can be helpful with. But I would say the top, kind of reasons, obviously acute illness. So like if you're sick with a virus or an infection of any kind, bacterial, parasitic, mold, yeast, it can help with that detox. For detoxing protocols, yeah, it's probably going to take more than one treatment.
Yeah.
There's many different ways you can also receive ozone therapy. There's the IV form, which is what I do. It's called major auto hemotherapy. It's a big word, which just means we take your blood, a blood sample, and then we mix it with ozone, and we give it back to you. You're using your own blood to heal yourself. It's the medium in which it delivers the ozone throughout the body. That's the most systemic way or whole body treatment you can do. It really helps. It's a really powerful, aggressive therapy that can bring you better results faster.
Okay.
So it's like the gold standard for ozone therapy. But it's a gas, so you can do a lot of things with this gas. You can absorb it into water, oil, different mediums, or you can inject it directly into the body. Like you can put it in your ears for an ear infection. You can put it in your nasal passages for congestion. You can do it rectally. Rectally is great because there's a lot of vascularity in your rectum, colon, and so it'll absorb into your bloodstream and have a systemic effect there too, which is the cheapest way to get the best way to get ozone. It's the cheapest, best way to do it.
Yeah.
Especially because you can do it at home. You don't even have to go into a practice like mine to do it that way. Anyone can purchase an ozone generator for home use.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's so
Never
easy.
knew this.
Yeah, it's super easy. And it's a little intimidating. There's a learning curve, but it's one of those things like once I bought it for my house, this was the other thing that kind of sparked me to do my own business because I bought one for myself. And then it was just so natural for me to want to talk about it and teach about it because it pretty much cleared out my medicine cabinet. Like I don't really need much else.
Yeah.
So kind of back to the top reasons: acute infection, acute illness, autoimmunity. Again, anything inflammatory. So if you have a steroid that you're taking for your treatment and you don't want to be on that steroid anymore, try Ozone. It's
my sister needs to listen to this.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
I have a lot of Crohn's UC patients that come and see me. And let's see what else. I said ear infections is a big one. I see a lot of moms bring me their babies, their children.
Aww.
This should be the frontline treatment for ear infections over antibiotics because there's no side effects.
Yeah.
And your body doesn't ever get used to it like it does with antibiotics to where eventually antibiotics aren't going to work for you. Ozone doesn't work that way. It's not a drug.
Yeah.
It works by stimulating processes in your body that happen naturally. Just needs a little boost, a little help getting there. That's what Ozone does. So, and what else? Infections. I said mold. Oh, Lyme.
Ooh.
Lyme disease. One of the most sought after treatments for Lyme disease.
Yeah.
It's awesome for Lyme disease. It's especially when we add UV light therapy to it. That's a whole nother thing.
Wow.
But
I've seen quite a few people just through social media that went through and had Lyme disease, which is we're going to keep going down that path. But before, I want you to touch a little bit on starting it and how you knew that it was time for you to fully jump in and do your own thing.
Okay. So during the pandemic, I was one of the only people showing up at the office. Everybody was able to kind of see their patients at home, but I had clients that were in the middle of their protocol. So obviously they have to come in and get their treatments. We saw people for COVID and did Ozone for them. And it was, at the beginning when we didn't know as much as we do now, and to see something work so well and then it be completely shut down by local hospitals. I was working at the time with the lobbyists to try to get this in hospitals, and they just wouldn't even hear us out. And I was working with a group of really well-respected doctors, and they didn't want to hear anything that we were saying about it. So it's all of that fueled me to do this because I felt so passionate about having something that worked that wasn't being used. And I'm like, my mission is to get ozone for everybody. Like, everybody should know about ozone therapy.
Why did they say no to you? Politics? Or like, why do you feel that they brought, you were bringing them a
great
solution?
Question. To be honest, when I first learned about it, I was like, what? You're going to start an IV and then drain my blood, put the bag on the floor to use gravity to drain, like bloodlet, basically. Then you're going to put that in my blood and then you're going to give it back to me. I mean, it's out there. It feels weird at first, you know? So one of the things that I'm really passionate about is kind of normalizing this thing.
Yeah.
And making practitioners and nurses more confident with this therapy because it is so out there. And I think that it's, you know, it's the fear of the unknown.
But is it really out there if there's science behind it? I think this is where, and not to like say like don't use that wording, but I think it's funny, and I catch myself like we think these things are quote unquote out there. Like these are scientifically
totally
proven to work. Like we're not coming up with this on the side of the street like, oh, let me put some rocks together and then like there's science behind this. And so that's why it's hard for me. And when everything was going on with COVID, it was hard for me to rationalize like if people are giving you scientifically backed solutions, but you're coming together with something that is not scientifically proven to, I mean, it doesn't even make logical sense to me. Like it didn't,
right.
It doesn't make sense.
The problem is people want to see research, right? They want to see the double-blinded studies and they want it to be proven to them why it works. They won't try it if they know it works unless they understand why. Why it works. And it's not like, why do you need to know how it works if it works? Especially when people are dying.
Yeah.
You know? And it is science. And there is research on ozone and there's a lot of science. There's a lot of things that we can explain about ozone therapy.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit that we can't explain.
But that's with everything.
Right?
You don't know 100% of the answers. That's life. Like that's just.
Totally. And guess what? We're not going to know all the answers.
No.
You know, there are things that are happening that we are never going to understand.
Yeah.
You know, we're just, us as humans, we're just behind.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's a little bit of fear of unknown mixed with ego, you know, and money. Why it's not being used and looked at. But yeah, actually, there was a place in Addison, Texas, they weren't doing IV, they were doing like sauna, ozone sauna, which is another way you can get ozone therapy. But they were making like crazy claims pretty early on, like this is the cure for COVID. Come get an ozone sauna, and you just can't say that.
Yeah.
And the FDA came in and shut them down, and then like I had to kind of disable my Instagram for a little while because weird things were happening. Like I remember
after you started your practice.
No, this was before.
Okay.
It's like kind of still propelling me kind of to start my own thing, right? But I was like getting on stories and I didn't have very many followers at that time. I had like 200 to 300 followers. Like, well, anyways, I would share on stories like, guys, don't freak out. Like we're using ozone therapy to eradicate Lyme disease, which is the most trickiest virus there is.
Yeah.
We're reversing like HPV and they're using it for HIV, like all these really scary, hard viruses. Like COVID's got nothing on this, you know? And I would just say things like that. And weird things would happen. Like my stories would just disappear. And again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all, but like this is what actually happened.
Yeah, they take that shit down. They're like,
oh,
you're going against the grain. Bye.
Yeah.
That's not freedom of speech, people. Okay. That is called controlling the narrative.
It's maddening. They're censoring me. Like,
yeah. Oh, they did that to so many people. There's so many influencers that came out and were like, I am getting
totally
cut off.
Yeah. And I still see it. Like, anytime I do a live interview, sometimes I'll do like lives on Instagram with practitioners that I think have a lot of really cool things to share about. And their views are so down, like, you know, a couple hundred versus like thousands. Like I'll post a video of me like, you know, doing lymphatic brushing and that has like thousands of views. And then when I'm talking to a practitioner about like how to heal, it'll be like 100 views. So it's weird, you know, like little things like that. But anyways, I disabled my Instagram because At the clinic I was working at, especially after Donald Trump sent that thing, we were getting like calls from anonymous people, weird, you know, I see a lot of females in this
Yeah.
industry more than males. It was a lot of like males calling, being like, do you do ozone therapy, or do you leave UV light therapy? Like things they could have found on our internet. Like they were definitely trying to get us at that time. And then
Trying to get you for what?
for making claims that we had a cure for COVID.
Oh, so these were like unsolicited people that were basically trying to take down your business.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not
Got it.
my business at the time, but like where I was at.
Yeah.
Because there's not, especially at that time, there was not very many people doing this therapy. And so, yeah, we were definitely being targeted. And then something changed, the law changed. There was a lobbyist, her name's Sheila Hemphill, who, there's a federal law that says we have the right to try anything that's not approved by the FDA. Like it's our right, a federal law that we should be allowed to do anything that we want, even if
Yeah.
it's not approved by the FDA. The problem is doctors won't agree to do anything that's
Yeah.
not approved by the FDA. But Sheila started this initiative called the Texas Right to Know. And so the problem is like we don't know what to try if we don't know about it,
Yeah.
right? So it's
Knowledge is power.
yeah. She works with practitioners to try to get their message out there and protect their license so that we, the people, can know about these therapies. Anyway, she worked with the Texas Medical Board and like whatever lawmakers to change the law to say that now we can use ozone to treat COVID as long as, the patient is aware that it's not an FDA approved treatment and that like they've tried everything else.
Yeah.
So that changed. And I felt more comfortable about speaking about it on Instagram. And now, like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, come and get me.
Yeah.
But that's because I just feel so passionate about our right to know.
Yeah.
Like, the people need to know about ozone.
It comes back to choice. And just like you have the choice to go to McDonald's, or you have the choice to eat a
Right.
salad, or just like you have the choice to get a Diet Coke or drink water. I mean, we all have a choice each and every single day, and knowledge is power. And I think you touched on this earlier, but how I figured out a lot of the issues I was having was through podcast as well. And I think that's why, again, like they've done so well, is because you hear these authentic conversations that were not taught. When I go into an OB's office, the only thing she cares about, and this happened to me, is selling me birth control. This chick was the better salesperson than me. She was hassling me. Actually, that's false. I went into another one only because I had to get like a checkup, because you have to do that. But outside of that, I have been traumatized to ever go back to one, because she was so inconsiderate and so aggressive and did not give a shit about me in the slightest. All she wanted me was to get something shoved into me that she didn't even know what it was. And it had like a 5% less of getting pregnant, which is not even why I was on birth control. So I'm like, no, the answer is no. But that's what you're taught, unless you are open-minded and you, like me, I just got super curious, and I'm like, this isn't working. Like what you're telling me isn't working.
Yeah.
But the stuff that is working, people are like, oh, no, don't talk about that. Or oh, don't do this. It's like, it's just ironic that what does work is what's being kept hush hush. And I know it's for money, and I'm not naive to that, but it's just so sad because so many people just get caught in the trap.
Yeah, but that's changing.
Yeah.
It is. I really, really feel that it is. Like, even you just knowing someone who's seen me, like, it's so empowering for me, and like gives me faith and hope that things are changing. We just got to keep talking about it.
And not just what you're doing, but I feel like overall there's so much knowledge and there's so much opportunity for people to learn about it. And I think it goes back to like, if this is the route you want to go down, or even if it's not, it's just like, listen to what other people are saying and don't be so quick to say no, because 9 times out of 10, like there's a reason why they're saying this. And that's why, I mean, Sophia and I are very much on the same page with a lot of things. I think I'm probably a little bit more extreme with like health than she is, but she has issues, and it's like she's gone through trying to find different ways to cure it, and it's like nothing is working. And just like your son, it's like you get rid of dairy and now he has no eczema. I mean, steroids,
it's so obvious.
Yeah.
It's so maddening
And,
that there's answers that are
mhm.
being kept from us. Like,
And from your, I mean, I kind of asked you it in terms of like ozone therapy, but from like a high level, being in functional medicine now, outside of like money, what do you feel are some misconceptions about functional medicine that are negatively impacting people's belief on the importance and why you need to know about it?
sure. I mean, functional medicine, quote unquote, is another like just kind of category of ways to approach a problem.
Hmm.
And there are like not good and bad, but like good and better practitioners, even
Yeah.
in this space for
Hmm.
sure. Um, what I see is that, first of all, I'm not a functional medicine provider.
Yeah.
I don't see patients in that way. Like, I work with people who are working with functional medicine providers and we're using ozone in a protocol to get them to their goal. So I don't necessarily do that,
Yeah.
but it actually gives me a very unique point of view when I'm talking to my clients, because I get to hear all the stories about
Yeah.
what's going on. But in functional medicine, sometimes it can be replacing pills with supplements,
Hmm.
and it's very expensive. You know, like, first of all, it's a big time commitment, and then they want you to do all this blood work and then do all these supplements and then completely change your diet and your lifestyle and all these things. And it's just a lot. It's overwhelming. It's expensive.
Hmm.
Um, so I would say that maybe the biggest misconception is that you have to do all that.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to do all that.
Hmm.
I don't even think you have to do all that testing. I think that even functional medicine is changing into more like foundational medicine. Like, what do we need to do as a foundation every day that's free?
Yeah.
You know, you don't need to be on supplements. You don't need to um, completely change your life overnight in order to get well.
What's unrealistic?
It is, and it's actually kind of hurtful for people. Like, it
Yeah.
can make you too stressed out, and stress is the number one thing that we're working against, right?
Hmm.
So we don't want to add to that, but yeah, I think another one is that, like, people think that if a doctor is like using different energy healing methods or bioresonance testing, muscle testing, or what are some kind of other out there things, that these people are whack or
Yeah.
like voodoo doctors, just because you can't see energy and frequency.
Hmm.
And so there's I think a misconception totally about that too
Yeah.
is like, some people call me like their voodoo doctor. And I'm like, it's actually science. Ozone is
Yeah.
science. Like,
Yeah.
it's not magic.
Yeah. Exactly.
um, yeah.
Where do you feel that stems from as a society, that it's voodoo? Or I mean, it's always woo woo, or you're out there. Or
Yeah.
I saw in Sports Center, Ryan Clark said something about going back, and he used like basically saying animals like Aaron Rodgers. I think he's super into like all this type of stuff. He's friends with Audrey Marcus and all that. And the announcer was like, go back with all like the orangutans or something, like kind of all the
Wow.
crazy people. But when he said that, I was just like, it's so interesting that you have such a negative
Yeah.
connotation on people that are doing things that are helping their physical and mental body. Like, we're not coming from space and telling you to do all these things that aren't scientifically proven. So where do you think that just stems from as a society?
I mean, it's definitely a program that's
Mhm.
been installed into us for generations, like witches were burned for using plant medicine, where now, like, the biggest company in the supplement world right now, Cellcore, like, it's all plants and energy.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, but it's bottled to look like a normal supplement pill, but it's all energy and plants. Like, people were being like hung for this, back in the day. So yeah, it's definitely a program that we have to know exactly how it works in
Uh-huh.
order to use it. And energy work frequencies, it's like you can't see it. So it's like believing in Santa Claus.
Yeah.
It's like if you can't see it, if you don't understand it, then it doesn't then it's voodoo, it's magic. It's orangutan medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's nuts.
I was just like, LOL. I mean, he was basically alluding to me because that's like very much me, but I was just like, all right, whatever. I'm turning off this sport on this episode. Yeah, no, I'm over it. For ozone therapy, I know we touched a little bit on like who are the type of people. With what you do, what do you feel is the most important thing for people to understand about this type of treatment?
Definitely education. Yeah, because again, like it's becoming a lot more popular. IV bars, these kind of like walk off the street, come in. What do I need to do to heal my body? And really relying on that nurse, that practitioner to tell you what to do. People want to know all the time, like how often do I come in? How many of this is, I get it. You want to budget your money, but like I never give people the straightforward answer because I want to teach them how to know when it's time, when they need it. Because ozone is a really powerful tool, but it's not necessarily required. There's a lot of things we can do. It's a luxury for sure. That to say, like it's one of the most effective things that you can do in the appropriate dose and frequency. So I do a lot of work with, okay, let's just say a Lyme patient comes in and, with Lyme, it's chronic and they're super sick. They don't feel good. They've probably been to countless doctors, and so they're ready to heal and get through this. And they've heard amazing things about ozone, and it is miraculous. Like sometimes it only takes a couple of treatments to obviously feel better,
Wow.
So I have to do a lot of kind of pumping of the brakes of like, okay, ozone is really good at killing off pathogens, but if your drainage pathways are blocked, meaning there's 7 organs in our body that are responsible for getting rid of toxins. If all those 7 organs were functioning optimally, all your drainage pathways were open, as we get exposed to things, which we will, they will just flow right through us, right? They'll come out through our kidneys, through our bowels, through our sweat, through our lungs. But if those are blocked and then we do a bunch of killing off with ozone, you're going to feel horrible because your toxic bucket, if you will, if you think of your body as a bucket, it's full with all these toxins. And then what ozone does is we kill a little bit off whatever's in your blood. And then when we give that blood back to you, your body sees the deadened pathogen and creates a widespread immune response, kind of similar to a vaccine and immunotherapy, right? It's like a deadened pathogen that gets injected into your body to create a widespread response. That's what ozone, major autoimmunotherapy, does. So if your bucket's already full because the drainage isn't draining, and then we go and we kill all that off, you're going to feel horrible. So there's a lot of things you need to do before you do ozone therapy in order to have a good experience, especially if you're dealing with something like Lyme disease, mold toxicity, parasites, if you're a highly sensitive person. It isn't smart to go out there and just sign up for ozone, get a package of ozone treatments, and think that you're going to be cured and feeling better. It doesn't always work that way.
Yeah.
Like you really need to know and understand your body and how it works holistically before you use ozone for that.
I'm all about proactive to this type of stuff. How can someone be, I know with Lyme disease, like some of these things, it's just like the inevitable, or maybe you've had it for a while. What are certain things that you advise people to do to be proactive in their overall health and nutrition so that they don't end up, and obviously you want them to see you because you want to share it, but you don't want them to be sick. So what are some things that you guide people on just like being proactive for their overall health?
I always go back to foundations, right? So like sleep, stress management, vitamin D, nutrition.
Yeah.
But I add in there like your spiritual care,
Yeah.
right? And like, because if we don't have a purpose in our life, then what's the point?
Yeah.
You know, and it's all body, mind, spirit. And I do a really good job at keeping my body healthy and my mind clear. But sometimes that spiritual piece is missing.
Hmm.
And so I think that is like the thing that I've been focusing on a lot, more recently. Yeah, sleep, stress, diet, vitamin D, spiritual health.
Was there an event that you can think back to in your life that triggered you down the spiritual awakening or the more spiritual side of you?
Mm. Well, I guess really anytime you experience a loss in your life
Yeah.
or grief, you turn to God,
Yeah.
looking for answers.
Yeah.
But it's not all about that for me. It's really been like it's easy to get caught up too in the spiritual world of like fixing things, right? It's like you have a problem, I want to fix it. I'm such a fixer, I'm like with everyone, like I want to fix me, I want to fix my family, and it's really not my job to do that. It's just another thing that I figured out that if I ignore it, I'm never going to feel whole.
Mm.
And, you know, it's really getting back to nature. And it just feels good.
Yeah.
Like, it just feels good to do spiritual practice and be close to God.
Yeah. What are some things that you do that help you develop that and help you come back to your center and come back to your grounded place?
Spending time with myself,
Mm-hmm.
not doing anything, telling myself like rest is productive.
Yeah. I'm learning that lesson too.
Yeah. And there is one thing I do every week that I never miss, or that I haven't in the past year or so, which is community, getting together with my group of people and talking and having vulnerable conversations, journaling together.
Yeah.
And community really helps. So definitely finding that and then showing up.
Committing to it.
Yeah.
A few more for you.
Okay.
Where do you see, I think there's been a shift. I think COVID did a lot of good. I mean, there's good and bad, but for me, I think it kind of opened our eyes to kind of some of the stuff that you're talking about. And a lot of people are just opening their minds to the nonsense that we've kind of been told. Where do you think this shift is going to go over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I think it's only up from here. I think we're all experiencing a massive awakening.
Yeah.
Raising consciousness of everybody together. So it's exciting, but with that comes, upheaval, detox. We're all detoxing everything right now.
Yeah.
So it might be a little painful as we go through this detox as a society.
Yeah.
As we get exposed to information that is like upsetting, right? It's like figuring out that we're being lied to and poisoned, not fun.
Yeah, no.
But it is for the better.
Yeah.
Right? And so I do think it's up from here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there is, as much as like technology and, companies that are coming up with products, as much as that kind of sounds scary and like, oh, there's still that worry about like, is this all just about money? There is some really cool tech coming out that is going to be really groundbreaking in the energy world. That is going to really help us heal as a nation. So I'm really excited about that.
Is this something you're doing, or do you have insight or knowledge?
No, not that I'm doing personally.
Okay.
I've started like kind of frequency is definitely one of the hot words in the biohacking world,
Yeah.
So I went to this conference a couple months ago, biohacking conference, and I met some amazing practitioners and companies. One of them to name is Lila Quantum Energy, and they have products that are basically like healing people's energy fields, protecting us from EMFs and everything. really simple technology. Well, not simple, not completely understood. We don't know how it works,
Yeah.
but simple in the fact that like it takes it down to the simplest form of life. Like, right, we're just looking at, we're all frequency. Everything has a frequency, and if
Yeah.
we can, information is frequency, and if it's just like going down to the most basic level and healing that from there.
Mhm.
And there's so much potential with that.
Yeah.
So it's exciting. Starting to kind of incorporate that with my stuff, but not, yeah. I mean, there's tons of companies coming out there. I was just, every week I got invited to this, they call it masterminds. It's a group of practitioners kind of like coming together and having these conversations, by invite only. And like, we're all sharing like really cool stuff.
Yeah.
There was this guy who was talking today about, he has discovered a way to basically detect what is going on. Like he can predict off of a dried blood sample that you have a 80% chance of getting cancer in the next month.
It's basically psychic, kind of.
Yeah.
It's like psychic, but it's like
Yeah, like
technology.
telling the future, like, right? I know it sounds psychic, but it's science and it's energy. And so just really cool, like really cool things are coming from the health tech kind of biohacking world. It's exciting.
Yeah, I love that type of stuff. If there's someone right now that's struggling with any sort of illness, autoimmune disorder, just overall health issues, what's one piece of advice that you would give them on healing?
Trust.
Trust
Yeah.
what?
Trust in yourself that your body can heal. Like God designed our bodies to heal, and it's just about figuring out what it is that you need. And that's it. And it can be simple,
Yeah.
It's easy to lose faith when you've been through conventional medicine.
Yeah.
But trust that we're here for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
and that the body is amazing. Like it can heal from anything. You break a bone, your body can regrow your bone. You cut your skin, it's going to grow back. Like, why don't you think you can heal from this? Yeah.
Love that. Trusting the process.
Yeah.
That's something I need to do in my life. So I love that. And then thank you so much for being on. Is there anything else that you want to share with the audience that I have not? I also want you to market yourself. But if there's anything else that we have not discussed that you're like, I really wanted to say this, take the floor. If not, market yourself.
I'm not good at marketing myself.
Where can people find you? Where can, if someone is like, love this episode, I want to talk to you, where can they find you? Instagram, website, where's your business? Give them all the details.
So I have 2 Instagram handles. One is more geared towards like nursing and me sharing all my like geeky, sciencey things. And that's Darrah Kempka _RN. And then I have my business Instagram, which is Natural Infusion Partners. We can put that in like show notes.
Yeah, I'm going to put all this in show notes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have a website, naturalinfusionpartners.com, where I have a blog, explains what I do there. And, okay, I'll say one thing.
Yeah.
Go. If you're a practitioner, like a nurse or a doctor who wants to learn how to do IV ozone therapy, there are not any certification programs out there, except one that I'm doing. So in February in Miami, we're doing one of the only IV certification courses you can take for this type of therapy.
Okay. And so people can just, I'm assuming, contact you if this is of interest to them.
Yeah, contact me. There's a link in my bio that you can sign up for that. And if it's a hit, which I think it will be, we're going to go on tour and like be all over.
Wow. She's taking it global, folks.
Yeah.
And you heard it here first on the Pop Podcast. So when she is world renowned, you'll know where she started. She started
I love that. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Last question.
Okay.
Is Darrah, what are you grateful for today? Darrah.
Yeah.
Darrah. Jesus, Erin.
Like
Darrah,
Sarah.
what are you grateful for today?
I would say, opportunity for sure. Like, there are other people who do what I do and don't have these opportunities that I've been given.
Yeah.
It's been like mind blowing to me. It's just like keeps coming and like things like this, So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, opportunity for sure.
Oh, I love that. And I'm going to say I am grateful for my health and just all of like these type
Yeah.
of conversations. I feel like just light me on fire because it's hard to trust yourself when you feel like you're kind of in left field or like people are making you seem like you're in left field. So I feel like it's conversations like that to just affirm like, okay,
Yeah.
you're not in left field. You're on to something. You just have to keep going down that path. So thank you so much.